Story 1. Do not count your eggs until they have hatched. Got a job last year and thought everything was going smoothly until the client just decided to cut me off after a week. I had just announced it to my family. Sucks. Story 2. You can't save someone who doesn't want to be saved. I wasted years trying to help someone who refused to change, and it cost me my peace of mind. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for yourself is walk away. Story 3. I learned the hard way that love is not enough if there is no respect or effort. I was in a relationship where I kept giving and compromising, thinking love would fix everything. But they never put in the same energy, and over time, it just drained me. The turning point was when I realized I was doing all the emotional work while they barely showed up. Leaving was hard, but it taught me that a relationship should feel balanced, not like you are carrying the weight alone. Story 4. One lesson I learned the hard way is to trust my instincts, even when others try to convince me otherwise. There were times when I ignored red flags in friendships or relationships because I did not want to cause conflict or hurt feelings. But in the end, I regretted not listening to my gut earlier and preventing myself from getting hurt. Now, I trust myself more and value my boundaries. Story 5. If someone shows you who they are, believe them. It wasn't because they had a bad day or some other excuse for poor behavior. That's who they are. Also, don't expect people to treat you the way you treat them. I always try to treat people the way I would want to be treated. I learned not to expect it to be reciprocated. It's still disheartening, but if you don't expect the reciprocity, you can mitigate the disappointment. Most people are more concerned with how they are perceived or how something will affect them in any decision, discussion, or relationship. For example, if someone complains about something you did, it's not you but the effect on them, more than likely. Often, we worry that people are focused on us personally or what we say. Most people are simply waiting for their turn to talk or listening to see how it affects them. Story 6. Not to bring work problems home. I didn't learn until I was about 28. I remember getting home, arguing with my girlfriend about something small, and suddenly realizing I wasn't really angry at her. I was still angry from work. I was young enough to be able to change, and I never did it again. Story 7. If they don't respect you in the beginning, they never will. And also, if they are okay with hurting you in the moment, even if they apologize, they will do it again. And lastly, you cannot depend on someone for your happiness and worth. That gives them the power to take it away. Story 8. A lesson I learned the hard way? Definitely that not everyone who seems nice has your best intentions at heart. I used to be very trusting, and I would overshare with people I barely knew, thinking it would help us connect. But a so-called friend once took something deeply personal I told her and twisted it into gossip. It spread so fast and was so embarrassing. Now, I am a lot more careful about who I open up to and take my time to really get to know someone before trusting them. It is unfortunate to learn it the hard way, but honestly, it made me stronger and better at setting boundaries. Story 9. Do not listen to Reddit. Everyone seems depressed and has a really dark take on life. This thread is the definition of doom scrolling. Save your soul and do not read it. Story 10. Even if you do, almost no one cares about what is fair or right versus wrong. People will choose their own family, friends, and their own interests over you every time. Also, after learning this, don't use it as an excuse to be a bad person. Real strength comes from doing what's right even when it is most inconvenient or hurts. Story 11. Pay your taxes. And if you cannot pay your taxes, at least file your taxes every year. I learned the hard way. It was an unbelievably stressful experience and took a massive toll on my mental health for years. That mess is in my past, but honestly, I will be paying for it for the rest of my life. I will never be where I should be because of the hole I had to dig myself out of. Story 12. Not to trust the honeymoon stage in a relationship. I am in my 60s, female, and have had several relationships that were great in the beginning but quickly went south after a year. Story 13. Sometimes family will keep you from living the life you really want. They'll hurt you, abuse you, talk about you, and take everything from you. Then smile and say, "I love you." Cut them off and move away. Story 14. This comes from the Bible, and while I know that most of Reddit land isn't religious, this is nonetheless a wise piece of advice. Do not cast your pearls before swine. If you do, you will regret it, and painfully so. Story 15:1. Hard work does not always pay off. This is not an excuse not to work hard when it is warranted. But it is more important to work smart and put your needs first. Instead of listening to respond, listen to understand. Story 16. Narcissists don't care about anyone but themselves. I spent over 2 decades putting up with my narcissistic mother, dealing with all of her abuse, both physical and emotional, always hoping that if I was just understanding enough, if I worked hard enough, if I loved her enough, that she'd love me back. Took a lot of therapy and heartbreak to learn that she never loved me. I don't think she ever loved anyone. I used to think she loved at least my dad. But she literally put him in the hospital for divorcing her. So much of my life was wasted trying to draw water from a dry well. I'm no contact now for a few years and things are immeasurably better. Story 17. Go with your gut feeling. I was living in a state I was more than happy in, and it was a fresh start to life. I received a job offer from a friend back in the state I grew up in and moved from. Yes, it pays more and is a better move for my career, but I am so far from being happy and content. I'm miserable and want to go back. I was comfortable and not struggling that much. Story 18. Sure, you can do it yourself, you can even do it well, but you will never do it as well as someone who does it for a living. In the end, doing it yourself will always end up costing you more in tools, time, mistakes, and unforeseen issues. Unless you enjoy doing it, hire a reputable professional. Story 19. Don't leave yourself open. I'm no self-defense expert, but I learned the hard way that you need to be a bit wary in public places, even and especially around so-called friends. Story 20. Wear your seatbelt. I almost lost an eye and have some scarring and facial disfigurement. Very poor vision from the damaged eye, and it has annoyed me every day since 30 years ago. The scars have faded, but losing vision is a burden. Put your seatbelt on, however long your journey will be. Story 21. People who say they hate drama are the biggest drama queens. People who say, "We don't gossip here," are the biggest gossipers. Coworkers are not your friends. Work friends are not your friends. The manager is not your friend. Human resources is definitely not your friend. The philosophy of human resources and management is, the problem is someone saying there is a problem. If there is no one to say there is a problem, then there is no problem. Don't let yourself get caught as the problem. Oh, and appearances matter in how people treat you. Sucks, but it is true. It is not the best reason to take care of yourself. The best reason is, to love oneself is the start of a lifelong romance. Story 22. Working harder or being an excellent employee doesn't get noticed or matter when it comes time to company layoffs. Or if you have a borderline supervisor with an axe to grind. Story 23. Always read your prescription labels, even if you have been getting automatic refills for 10 years. I learned this yesterday in the emergency room. I was taking 3 pills, and without me knowing, the pharmacy combined the 3 pills into 1 pill for my convenience. So I tripled the dose on antidepressants. The nursing staff gave me odd looks. You accidentally took too many antidepressants? Story 24. Never lend money to anyone in need, even if they are your partner, without a proper agreement for repayment. You lose your money and respect for that person. It is a lose-lose situation to be in. Story 25. A woman being extremely beautiful does not mean that she can make me happy. Looks truly are not everything. To be fair, she was a really nice girl and was absolutely out of my league, but we had nothing in common, and after 3 months I just could not do it anymore. Story 26. That sometimes you are wrong, that you are the jerk and you can't fix it. All you can do is learn from it. Apologizing to someone who doesn't want to see you is more damaging for them and actually very selfish. Don't do it. They don't care anymore. You can let people walk all over you, and someone will complain that you're not comfortable to stand on. When someone says, "Just be yourself," it's not a magic trick to attract your dream partner. It's just a way to attract someone to your true self instead of the fake person you'd be pretending and stressing yourself to be. Why are you arguing to be right when you can be working together to fix the issue? Being honest isn't the best policy when it hurts others. But surprisingly, it is when it only hurts you. Story 27. If it hurts, go see a doctor. I went months with a stiff neck, thinking it was just age and bad posture. Nope, it was cancer. If I had gotten it checked when it started hurting, I might have saved myself from most of the damage. Story 28. Don't coast through life. It's not necessarily been that bad, but after a divorce and realizing I kept getting stuck in jobs I didn't enjoy, it's better to take control. At least for me. Story 29. Pick the career you actually want, even if it makes less money. I spent years trying to force myself to like high-paying technology jobs, and for a while I thought it was working, but in the end it was kind of soul-crushing, and I'm a lot happier since I walked away. Money isn't everything. Story 30. Always answer truthfully if someone asks what you prefer. Never say you want something because you think the other person wants that. It's a terrible way to conduct yourself. Don't assume people are answering based on what they think you want or feel. It's slightly uncomfortable the first couple of times, but it's foolish to overthink everyday interactions with a friend. Often, people get upset over how considerate they are when the other person actually didn't care about the decision. I don't think that made sense, but my brain is slow. Story 31. Document all your belongings. Take pictures of everything you have in your house and back them up on the cloud. Save all your receipts for anything that you keep or consistently use. Get a fireproof safe for your most important documents. Story 32. Drugs are bad. A bad drug trip caused me to ingest enough sodium to put me in a coma and left me with amnesia so severe afterwards that I didn't even remember my parents. Story 33. If you are trying to woo someone who is already in a relationship, the worst thing you can do to try to win their heart is to make fun of the person they are currently with. You think you are making them look bad to make yourself look better, but in reality, you are telling the other person they have bad taste, which in turn makes them focus on all the good qualities of their current partner. All you are doing is bringing them closer together. Story 34. I was not admitted to my dream law school because I submitted my admissions essay that was full of typographical errors. I had to attend a less prestigious school with higher tuition and incurred a larger student loan debt as a result. Story 35. Your career is a lot less in your control than society probably mentioned growing up. Also, while a job might not owe you anything, an entire field doesn't either. Thank goodness I learned it in my 20s and not my 30s or 40s. Story 36. If every restaurant downtown has a line but there's one that is almost empty, there's a reason. All I will say is I got food poisoning at said almost empty restaurant. Story 37. Always be careful of your width when driving a big vehicle. My uncle is a farmer. I work there on weekends and I drive some big vehicles sometimes on his own terrain. Once, I drove out of the shed and broke a rain pipe with the bucket of the telehandler. Story 38. My mom always reminded me when I was a kid that I should start eating healthy and cut back on sweets and oily foods. Unfortunately, I became obese and diabetic. I often think about what my mother said. If only I had followed her advice, I might not be dealing with these health issues now. Story 39. As an enterprising middle schooler selling items on eBay, I wanted to expand my buyer base by offering international shipping. This was before the global shipping program. A buyer from Russia bought an iPhone 3GS from me, and shipping was not even too expensive. A couple of weeks after the sale, the buyer started an eBay case for an item not received. Even though tracking indicated it was probably still on its way, eBay sided with them and refunded their money. Another week or so later, they messaged me that the phone had finally arrived and sent the cost of the phone back to my PayPal account. I learned that one the hard way. Story 40. Never mess with the cops, especially Norwegian cops. A friend and I were causing trouble, and we beat up someone who owed us money. We hit him hard, and he gave the police our fake names. They caught us 2 days later while we were shopping. They put me in handcuffs and dragged my friend to the police van. In the van, my friend and I were playing rock, paper, scissors, and the officer got mad. We were in court and explained our side. The guy we beat up told his side, and we ended up in prison for 2 months. It was either prison or house arrest, and we chose prison. We left jail last month, and now the guy is acting like he beat us up. One time, we saw him walking with a girl, and he tried to scare us with a fake gun. We broke the gun with a simple twist, and he knew he had messed up. Story 41. Your siblings will no longer be your siblings after they get married or have kids. Things will change to the point where they will be willing to hurt you for their family. Story 42. Don't lend money to family members to try and help out unless you really have no problem with losing that money. It almost completely soured my relationship with both my parents and my sister. It's incredible realizing how easy it is for people to take advantage of you, even if you thought you were close with them. There's a level of entitlement that comes with lending money too, where they feel like you owe it to them to give them even more money or that they can give it back at whatever pace they please, and that you can't feel any sort of way about it. It really messed me up. If I borrow money, I treat it as not my money and always pay it back within the terms of our original agreement. The level of disrespect was insane. Unfortunately, they'd have to be in a completely dire situation for me to even think about helping them with anything.